We are in the midst of Passover. Sunday is Easter, and in less than 2 weeks, Ramadan begins. But like so much in our lives right now, these holiest of times are different now. Out front now with CNN religion commentator Father Edward Beck. And Father Beck, it is good to see you, just to see your face even through this. I know, obviously, you and I have spoken over text, but not seen each other, as so many are not seeing each other. And, you know, Passover is different. I know we saw a lot of Zoom Seders this week, people alone or trying to join by phone. What do you make of how people are finding ways to come together right now that are not physically being together?
Well, I think what's so interesting is it pushes us, Erin, toward a new spirituality that might not be a terrible thing. When you think about it, that image of the Pope, a few images of him alone in that square and the isolation of it. And yet it was very contemplative. There was something very spiritual about it, that there is a real strain in spirituality of the contemplative part, of the aloneness part. I mean, the desert fathers and mothers went into the desert for a reason, to be free of distractions and to be replenished in some way. So I'm kind of thinking about using this time, and have been, and encouraging others to, yes, we cannot come together physically, and that's part of community, but there's a real value in spirituality and in faith to be able to have this time in contemplation and meditation and discover new ways of connecting to God and, of course, online to one another.
Yeah, and it is. You even experience that just when you're, in New York City and you're on the street, right? And there's almost like a community and a camaraderie of meeting someone's eyes that you didn't have before, even though now you can't have a conversation with them because you're 6 feet apart. And it's just, that I guess on a certain level, I understand what you're saying, just on a human connection basis. But we're at a time of year, it's spring and there's rebirth and renewal, which of course is one of the traditions that many will celebrate this Easter Sunday. How does that message, though, sit? I mean, how do you take that message of rebirth and renewal and then see these pictures of, mass graves? I mean, literally, this is in New York, right? Hart Island, unclaimed bodies are being put in there. And it is like a mass grave. These are unclaimed bodies with no one to know who they are, to want to bring them somewhere. How do you put those things together, rebirth and those images?
Well, Erin, there's never been a time in our lives when, as a global community, we have entered these mysteries that we're celebrating now as Christians these days in an experiential way. I mean, just think about it. Today is Good Friday. It is about suffering and death. Tomorrow, Holy Saturday, commemorates Jesus in the tomb, waiting for rebirth, waiting for renewal. Who of us in some way during all of this pandemic and this isolation doesn't feel like we've been entombed in some way? And yet I think the hope part comes, and the reason it's called Good Friday is because it's not the final word. That we do believe, Christians believe 2 days later, that Jesus was resurrected, life was restored. And I think we believe that about ourselves too, that we're not going to stay in the tomb, that the end of this is not suffering and death. And we've seen that in so much of the kindness you're talking about. I mean, it's almost like a post 9/11 feel here in New York, walking down the street and encountering people. And there's love and there's compassion and there's a coming together that I think is so rare. And that's where I'm finding the new life and the hope of renewal and the possibility of something else here. And I think it's really inspiring as well. So I think going through these mysteries, in the midst of actually going through these mysteries, has been a really powerful experience for me, and I know for many others.
And in terms of how, I mean, obviously I know you have always relished sort of your time alone to think and to read, but what have you turned to during this time?
I've turned to actually trying to be more quiet and to read less and to be on my device less, or my devices less. I've picked up a new novel, and I haven't read a novel in quite some time. I've just been reading other stuff. And so I've just been trying to savor some of the time and realizing that this time, while I don't want it, and I'm longing just to go out to dinner or go to a movie like everybody else, there's something about it that's also a gift for me. And I'm trying to use it in a productive way, and to realize that there's a mystery in this that I can absorb, and that maybe months from now I'll look back and see it as a grace instead of just a punishment of some kind.
Well, Father Beck, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Erin. Great seeing you even this way.
All right.